Welcome to The Gas. I'm Gary Gastelou. This is the Gary and Alex Show, the official podcast of American Cars and Racing.com. And we've got a lot to talk about today. Mustangs, minivans, if you can believe that, some new electric American cars, and of course, we're going to wrap up the first weekend in Formula One for our favorite American brands, Ford and Cadillac. And of course, with me to talk about all this is my co-host, Alex Nunez. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Gary. Good to be here.
So we all know you are America's premier 2006 Mustang convertible influencer, and we know you love
Oh
the
yeah.
Mustang.
Oh yeah.
Big Mustang news this week. We found out finally the price of the new Mustang Dark Horse SC, the supercharged version of the Dark Horse. Wasn't official. It was information that leaked online, which forced Ford's hands to release the pricing. The vehicle was revealed back in Detroit in January. But here's what it's at. Base price, $103,000 with the track pack, $140,000. And of course, they're doing a special launch edition, $170,000. That's track pack with carbon fiber parts and hand painted stripes. Just to recap, the Dark Horse SC essentially the successor to the 2022 Shelby GT500. It's got the same 5.2-liter supercharged V8. A couple upgrades as far as the performance is concerned, but it also has the 7-speed dual clutch transmission and the MagneRide shock absorbers. That one had a base price under $80,000. So this is a pretty big jump in those couple of years. Do you think they're shooting too high with the Dark Horse SC, Alex, or is this where we're at now for a performance vehicle?
It's where we're at. If you're going to complain about what it costs, you're not the customer. Like honestly, that's really what it all boils down to. Not surprised at all at the price range. That's what it's going to cost for something that has big power like this, that's has an audience that is going to jump at it and just pay the money. It's the same thing. It's like same people complain, oh, the Corvette, high-end Corvettes are well over $100,000 too. Yes, and there is an audience for it. So I find none of it surprising. The reality is you can get into plenty of trouble in a Mustang. Any of the myriad, builds that you can create that fall below Dark Horse SC. So not really surprised. This is just where we are right now. High-end vehicles are going to be expensive, as we've discussed many times, on the show in the past. Nothing is truly inexpensive anymore in terms of new cars. So the higher you climb the ladder, the more it's going to be. So I don't think Ford's going to I have no idea what the sales forecasts are, for it, obviously, but I don't think they're going to have trouble finding the audience that they know is there. These decisions don't happen in a vacuum.
One mystery that still remains is how much power this has. The Shelby GT500 had 760 horsepower. Of course, we have the Mustang GTD, which uses an even more awesome version of this engine at 815 horsepower, though that's very modified from this one. You got to think they probably don't want to give it more than 815 horsepower just because of that GTD that they got to sell for
Yeah.
$327,000. But I don't know, is it going to be 800? Is it going to be 780? Where do you think it's going to fall?
I don't think that they broach 800 for the very reason that you said. I mean, that once you get up there, now you're playing in the pool of your super high end vehicle. The reality is this: it doesn't matter what the horsepower number is. It's going to be some insane number. As a practical matter, it's going to be 100 times quicker on the street than it actually needs to be. It's gonna be plenty of fun. I'm sure it's gonna be a great stoplight car. I'm sure it's gonna be fun on the track. It's not gonna be what the GTD is, because the GTD is as close to a modern homologation special as you get. So there's a very different approach to that. And I don't think, even if they were to give it gobs of power, I don't think it's gonna outhandle, GTD on a road course, if you want to get into the weeds. But long story long, I don't think they're going to create that problem for themselves where it has similar power to the GTD. That would just cut off the GTD at the ankles, at least the sort of aura and narrative around it.
One thing I have to point about it, that $170,000 version with the hand painted graphics, on the GT500, the Shelby GT500. It had hand painted stripes as an option. They were $10,000. The number sounded ridiculous when you heard it. Really, 10 grand for stripes. But I have to tell you, when you saw those in person, they looked so much better than decal stripes.
Of
Like
course
I
they
couldn't
did.
even, after seeing that, I couldn't even consider buying a car with decal stripes. They ruined it for me.
People will pay for the things that they want to pay for. There is an audience for this car at the price range that has been confirmed. Beginning, middle, and end.
Of course, if you prefer, you could still get a real deal Shelby from Shelby American, which is also building more performance trucks these days. And it just announced the creation of Shelby Performance to help grow that side of the business. And joining us now to talk about all that is the president of Shelby American, Gary Patterson. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Gary.
So tell me about Shelby Performance and why you need this addition to the company to, build these trucks you're building these days.
Well, we wanted to reunite the original team. So we back in 2015, 2014 time period, Jeff Burchell, who was one of the founders of the Tuscany, along with Mike Graber. I ran into Jeff at it was kind of set up for us by the BF Goodrich team and Joe Enterante and so forth. And so we were able to get together. We rode together in a buggy down in Mexico and ran about 300 miles of the Baja. Not the official, but the track anyway, but not part of the actual race. But we had a great time, and we started brainstorming with things, and they had a great team of people there, and so we had them building trucks. So that changed a little bit, 2017. But we wanted to reunite the old team. We liked the way they did business and took care of customers and customer service. So they liked the quality workmanship and things like that. We wanted to rebirth the company with some new components like the King shocks and the suspension and stuff like that. So we're real excited about that and taking the business to a new level. Carol Shelby's favorite thing was always the next one. So we're on to the next one, Gary.
One of your new truck models is the F-250 Super Baja Diesel, $160,000 to start. How many of these Shelby trucks are you selling these days every year?
The good thing is when we started the truck business with these guys back in 15, we were doing basically a one truck. It was a 150 raised truck, and it was hugely popular. But we've also found is some of our customers like towing heavy loads, or they'd rather get in a truck that's not so high, and they'd rather run around on the street mostly, and so they didn't need all the lifted part of it. And so there's different flavors of the ice cream, right? I mean, I like ice cream, but I don't always like chocolate or vanilla or strawberry or raspberry. I like them all, but maybe I'm in the mood for something different, or my need is something different. And so we did that, and as a result of that, yeah, we're gonna climb into we're doing 1,600 or so of those various things throughout the year. The 250 part, that may only be 250 units. With the 150s, there's more people that like that truck, not as big, rides a little smoother and doesn't necessarily tow as much, but that's okay. Most people don't need to tow, 25,000 pounds. Like I said, there's different flavors for different things and different applications. So we've got a truck for you, right? We've done the short box single cabs and stuff in the past, and one could speculate, right? We actually teased that at the Barrett Jackson in January in Scottsdale. So you can bet that if you like to go 0 to 60 in a pickup truck in under 3.5 seconds, oh yeah.
It's good news for you that Ford is sticking with the Mustang. Chevy doesn't make the Camaro anymore. Dodge, at least right now, isn't making V8 Chargers. But that said, while you do all the Mustangs still, are you seeing the market shift more toward trucks these days? Is that really where it's heading? Or are these two different businesses and the trucks are an expansion?
What we've seen is kind of a little bit of shifting around. I mean, at one point, 2 or 3 years ago, trucks were like 75, 80% of our business. We're
Wow.
actually expanding our Mustang line and trying new flavors of the ice cream there as well. And so what we're seeing is people like the small niche run, very exclusive, vehicles that we build. And they're certainly not just stickers and scoops. When you look under the hood, and it's not just under the hood, but if you look under the chassis, and we talked about the trucks and suspension and things like that, there's a whole lot of meat and potatoes. It's not just stickers and scoops. So it comes with a big price, but at the same time, it's also big performance.
Are the truck Shelby buyers also Shelby Mustang buyers, or are these two different kind of customer?
Well, we do have a lot of people that have both, which is really neat. And they trust the Shelby brand to bring, maximum performance to either one of those product lines. And how many people do own trucks and cars, right? So Mustang's a performance vehicle. I've been a Mustang guy since my dad bought one brand new and in the middle of 1964. So that
Wow.
dates me a little bit
One of the
too.
originals.
Yeah, well, my first car was also I bought it used with money I made mowing lawns, a 69 Mach 1 428 Cobra Jet. I still have that car, believe it or not, over 50 years later. So
Wow.
that's pretty cool. And, it's neat to be a part of that. So I've been a Mustang guy, but, I have a truck too, right? So you got to have trucks, you got to have cars. A lot of our customers have both. Many of the people that we do business with also own businesses. And, so they have a need for a truck and, they can write that off too. So it's pretty cool.
There are a lot of performance builders that work on Mustangs and Ford pickups. Are you competing with them, or are the customers brand loyal for Shelby, or do you have to convince them to not go buy their souped up Mustang from somebody else?
The good thing is performance speaks to itself. So people are come to expect, from Shelby that they're going to get kind of the pinnacle of that performance. So they do come to us because of the brand. But at the end of the day, the brand is only as good as the content and the performance. So you got to have all that to back it up. And there's clearly a market out there for those in the business that do stickers and scoops. It does differentiate their product or their vehicle from their neighbors, but we go far beyond that. With most of our product line, we've got a great deal of content, and it's not for everybody, and not everybody's in the market to afford it. But those were always Shelby was always an aspirational brand. It was for me. It is for most people. But when you really want to look at that, then you say, okay, I'm buying a Shelby. What do I get for it? And you got to be able to tell that story. And it is more than stickers and scoops. It's, if I go out and take a picture in the shop right now, you'll see virtually the whole front ends are apart off the Mustangs that we're building here. So fenders and hoods and front fascias and grills and radiators and all this kind of stuff is laying on the ground because we have new parts that are going to go on these. Trucks are a little different flavor, but you look at bumpers and lights and suspension and all that, all of a sudden that truck comes clear apart too. So there's a lot that goes into these. But there's a lot of performance that goes with it, as well as some things that we're also proud of is all your touch points. So when you sit in the vehicle and what do you see, what do you feel, you can tell this is a different vehicle. So and it's not just your recover seats. We've designed those and everything, but they also pass federal motor vehicle safety standards. So the airbags still deploy the way they should and things like that. So this really becomes a whole package where, when we used to modify vehicles a long time ago, you didn't have to worry about this computer talking to this computer, talking to this computer. You didn't have to worry about all the safety issues and things like that. But we make sure that these vehicles are safety compliant and also environmentally compliant with the emission standards and so forth.
I've seen your development center there in Las Vegas. Is that where the trucks are going to be engineered, or is Shelby Performance's location in Indiana going to have something like that too? Or is that really more of a build center?
No, it's actually what we do there is it's a nice partnership with them. So we lead on design, but they have a lot of input in design. We get back with the customers. And we've got a great market strategist group now, regional people that interact with the dealers, and we're trying to get. And we're actually down in Florida right now at Shelby American, and we're working with our market strategists down there and the dealers. And we're saying, okay, what are you seeing? What would you like? What do you like? What you don't? And we make sure that those kind of things are incorporated in new vehicle programs. So while the trucks are all built right now in Bristol, Indiana, we do some design work with those in conjunction with Bristol right here in Las Vegas. But the trucks will be built in Bristol, Indiana.
Shelby is very popular among traditional muscle car fans. You know, you've been around for half a century. What are you doing to attract and reach younger performance vehicle buyers?
Yeah, so when we go to shows and events, we're playing around with different things too, like Fuel Fest and Mustang Week, and we're getting out there and we're putting butts in seats too. So when we go to events, we put the people in the cars, so that whether you're young or old, you're sitting in a seat and you get to go for a ride. And that's pretty cool. But we also mix it up with the people and we listen to them. What would you like? What do you want to see? And not everybody wants the same thing, which is great. That's why other people may attract those. But we're getting a lot of people that are younger that really have understood the Shelby brand. I think the movie Ford versus Ferrari helped a lot with
Did that
that.
give you a boost?
It did, I mean, it took the people that were at the time, under 45, that didn't understand. They understood there was a Shelby, but they didn't understand the significance of it until they understood a little bit more of the history. But it's not just about history. We're clearly at the forefront of, developing new vehicles, whether they are cars or trucks. And, right now, today, my counterpart, Vince LaViolette, is out at the racetrack right now, and we're validating performance and testing performance on not only existing models but new models, and we keep pushing the envelope so that way our cars continue to perform at the very top level.
Good friend of mine just saw Ford versus Ferrari for the first time. He's not really a car guy, but he texted me, "Why didn't you tell me about this movie? This is great. I love this story. This is the coolest thing ever, Shelby." So I guess it really is something that connects with people still. One of your new models that I love the looks of, haven't seen it in person yet though, is the Mustang GT 350R, pretty classic Shelby spec. I know you were talking about building a version of that that would actually be able to compete in the Trans Am Racing Series. Is that still coming together?
Yeah, that's coming together nicely. So, stay tuned for later this year. We said when we announced it that it was going to be a development program for a while. That is under development still, but we're getting close, and that's exciting. And the other thing that we've done is we've got the partnership with Shelby Performance, but we've also got with Turnkey Motorsports, and we've also got TDM that builds our GT350s, just real close to the Flat Rock plant. So we've got business in there, and we partner with people that we're very comfortable with, and we make sure that they share the same passion for quality and workmanship and so forth as we do here in Las Vegas. So that's really good, and the GT350R is what we did with TKM last year. They're building the GT350 TA this year, and that's basically stands for Trans Am. We've been working with Aaron Caldwell there in Trans Am, and really getting his input on what he'd like to see, because we celebrated 60 years of working with Trans Am this year. So long before there was a Firebird or a Trans Am Firebird, there was Shelby competing in Trans Am. So some people are like, well, why is that? That's why we have a Trans Am, and Trans Am, the organization itself, is very much behind what we're doing today and very excited about what we're doing.
Which one of the classes is the car going to be built for?
So we're playing with two different ones. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. Well, we love Trans Am here at the
Trans
Gas.
Am's going to be real cool.
Yeah, we just had Adam Andretti on a couple of weeks ago. He's one of our favorite guests, one of the guys who races in TA1, and well, he'll drive anything. We were talking about his NASCAR Truck Series debut, but he is a stalwart on the Trans Am series. And as you said, that really ties back to the origins of Shelby. I think a lot of people who don't know about it might think of these muscle cars as being drag racers, but that's really not what Shelby was ever really about.
Yeah, we certainly had some purpose-built drag cars, but not very often. Most of the cars that we had, and really where the DNA started, was with Carroll Shelby, and he was obviously a road racer, and won the 24 hours of Le Mans and many other things. And, he was even driver of the year, whatever, with Sports Illustrated, I think in 1959 or 60. So pretty neat stuff. We want the car to be able to do more than just a one trick. There's times when you purpose build a car for drag racing or road racing or whatever, but most of our products, they kind of cross the line, and you can do multiple things with them. So if you look at our trucks, they're capable off-road and on-road with most of the product line. So that's pretty cool too.
All right, Gary Patterson, president of Shelby American. I got to get out to Las Vegas and come knocking on your door one of these days and try some of these new cars.
Well, Gary, you're always welcome here in Las Vegas, and that's really the headquarters. But if you happen to be in Michigan, or if you want to take a trip to Indiana, we'd love to have you.
Sounds great. You have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Alex, it is pretty impressive how enduring the Shelby brand has been for 50, 60 years now.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what happens when it comes from this origin story that, has a very charismatic personality and all kinds of like sort of racing authenticity, and that has real staying power. The cars have always been visually interesting, cool, fast, whatever you want to call it. The fact that the Shelby American has expanded this into trucks, and found, as we all know, we live in the truck country, right? That there is obviously a very happy and willing audience for that. And I feel like they've done a good job of maintaining this sort of thread all the way through and expanding beyond, that you can still buy the sort of repro Cobras, obviously from them and their range of Mustangs, but the trucks opens it up even wider. And we all know that there's almost unlimited demand for, among certain truck buyers to go ham on what they're willing to pay for, for a truck, whether they're, buying a high-end factory thing, or they're doing something that's aftermarket like this, or if they're just spending money in the aftermarket on their own, making something their own. So it's a great story. It's a cool brand. This is a cool truck. It's kind of all of the things, right? It's here's a Shelby, here's a Super Duty, Ford, and we're going to build, 250 of these things, and I'm sure they'll sell all 250.
I see these around New York, even cruising around. It's pretty impressive, just the kind of market they've been able to reach with this. But shifting gears now from Mustangs to minivans, this is like the biggest week in minivan news, I think, in years, maybe even
Oh,
forever.
yeah.
Three new minivans popping up this week. Not all new. The first one, of course, is the redesigned Chrysler Pacifica. So last year, minivan sales in the US popped 20%, just under 400,000. Back in 2000, they were selling 1.3 million a year.
Yeah.
Minivans are not back per se, as some people like to say. But they are still, yeah, they've got that solid little niche. And there's only four of them on sale: Kia, Toyota, Honda, and of course Chrysler. Chrysler's the best seller, 110,000 last year. Current Pacific has been on sale since 2017. This is its second styling update. Not really changing too much else, although they did get rid of the plug-in hybrid version along with all the Stellantis plug-in hybrids. But it's amazing that this brand has been cruising along for a couple of years now with only the Pacifica in its lineup. But at 110,000 a year, that outsells some entire other foreign brands in the US.
Listen, it sells because it's really good at what it does. And that's what all the family-oriented minivan, whether you're talking about Pacifica or Odyssey or Sienna or, even the Kia, the Carnival, I don't think that there is a sort of product category that more closely understands the target buyer than the product teams that are doing the minivan stuff. And the Chrysler minivans are really good. You don't have to change a whole lot. So that's why you're going to get this facelift. and it's going to continue to, sell in exactly those kind of volumes that it has, and everyone's going to be very happy about it. I think I made a joke with you. I don't remember if it was here or offline or what, but it's like this is going to be like the LX platform of family vehicles. Stellantis will have this thing for as long as they can before they have to redesign it.
I love the innovation in the minivan segment. Things like the Stone Go seats that fall on the floor, built-in vacuum cleaners.
Fantastic.
They've got the fam cam. It's a camera that you could watch the back two rows of
Yeah.
seats to keep an eye on things. I mean, and it's real bad. It's almost like what you see in the pickup truck segment, but all family-oriented features. But they really go to town, and Chrysler defends this with its life because it knows it started the segment, and it will never give up being the king of this segment.
That's a great comparison. Also, like talking about the way the companies that are building trucks, like they know that audience. It's really that is a great parallel to draw. Like if you have ever had to like move a kid into college or something, and you scored the minivan at the rental counter instead of like an SUV, it's like a miracle happens. When you realize that you could do in like 2 trips what would have taken 5, otherwise. I think the update looks cool. I love the vans. I don't think they're going anywhere. This is a winner. Period.
They're not going anywhere. In fact, the Pacific is going to be getting some competition in the form of a sibling rivalry next year when Ram brings back the ProMaster City commercial minivan. Ford and GM got out of this segment. So did Ram. They had the ProMaster City a couple years ago, stopped selling it in 2022. It's bringing it back for 2027. But this time around, it's a little bigger. It's going to start under $40,000. It's going to be able to tow 2,000 pounds, haul 2,000 pounds. The cargo space is big enough to fit a 4x8 sheet of plywood now with the door closed, 2 pallets, very commercial oriented, although they will have a passenger van version. It'll be interesting to see if anybody buys the passenger van version of this instead of the Pacifica, or if this is just a total expansion of the minivan segment for the Stellantis brands.
I feel like the passenger van version of it will have a different target audience. It'll be like more for commercial, type
Airport
of
shuttles and things like that.
Exactly. I think that's what that's for. And it'll find that, audience there. It's gonna ride like a van, like a van. It's not gonna be all trucky feeling. Just go where the audience is. And this makes total sense for Ram.
And it got the segment to itself, at least for a couple of years. I got to think Ford's going to get back into this at some point, but it also helps Ram fill that gap that it has in its lineup since it doesn't currently have a mid-size pickup, although there is a new Dakota in the works, but that's still 2 or 3 years away.
Right.
Of course, on the complete other end of the minivan segment, Mercedes-Benz is going to be coming to the US next year with a new model called the VLE, which is an all-electric luxury minivan that it would prefer you call a grand limousine. But let's be honest, it's got sliding doors and it's definitely a minivan, although it's actually a little bigger than the Pacifica. We're expecting this to be about $80,000 to start, 350 miles of range. Alex, this sort of thing is popular in Asia and Europe, the luxury minivans. They definitely have a lot more of that going on. Not so much for families, more for like VIPs. Hasn't really hit here in the US, but when you see it in the flesh, they make so much more sense than an SUV. You can put the big reclining chairs in there, the giant TV. This one has a 31-inch drop down screen for the second row. You can configure the seats so they face each other in like a lounge setup. Air suspension, they're also throwing on this, so it's gonna have a great ride. The interior is as nice as a Mercedes S-Class, but I don't know. Still, though, it's got the minivan stigma. I wonder how many they're even expecting to sell in the US and if it'll be a hit.
I wonder if this is Mercedes seeing an opportunity with a vehicle that has already demonstrated, or a vehicle type that has already demonstrated its value in other markets as a de facto limo. But what I see is Mercedes looks at all these aftermarket companies that take Sprinters and upfit them into effectively what this vehicle is supposed to be, and they can just sell it direct to the same customers. So I wonder if that's what it is. The market for vans as luxury transportation exists in any big city. Look at the sprinters that the high rollers are getting out of. This is a market that exists. This is Mercedes offering a straight from the factory option that is probably going to ride better than, the Sprinters. And it's also sized better for, especially for, urban use.
Of course, the electric car market in the US is in a lot of flux, but we just got details on probably the most important electric vehicle that's launching this year, the new Rivian R2, their new compact SUV model that's going to be going up against the Tesla Model Y, but with a more off-roady style that basically looks like a shrunken version of the Rivian R1. First models that go on sale this year, $58,000. 656 horsepower because the electric launch cars need ridiculous amounts of horsepower. 330 miles of range. They're going to follow that up with 345-mile version at $48,000. And then late next year, $45,000 for a rear-wheel drive with 275 miles of range. Now, comparing this to the Model Y, you can get one of those now with rear-wheel drive for 40 grand, 321 miles, and 50 grand for all-wheel drive and 327 miles of range. Obviously not off-road oriented at all, but that is still king of the electric cars, and it's not even close. The Rivian R2, it just seems like if it launched last year or the year before, or if the tax credits were still in effect, would be one of the best-selling cars in America. It just hits that off-roady adventure styling niche plus the electric side of things. But I'm just wondering right now, especially coming at these price points, if it's going to be the killer hit that it could have been, or if the boat's sailed and it's maybe in a little bit of trouble now.
I wonder if the ship has indeed sailed. If this was the launch vehicle for Rivian instead of the R1, absolute bonanza, probably sort of Tesla style saturation, when it came out. It dog walks the Model Y in terms of styling and all of that stuff. I mean, I love the Rivians. They turn heads. I look twice every time I see one. The market is going to determine, not artificially, the success or failure of the R2. I mean, it's obviously great looking. I mean, the pricing is what it is. The later arriving ones with more range and a lower MSRP are playing in a pool that is still very active in terms of the marketplace. That's a good place to be. So again, we're going to see right away what the market actually thinks of Rivian moving down market. I mean, the styling is totally a success. I mean, it is a smaller R1. I mean, it's identical styling. I read somewhere that R1 styling was actually derived from this, which
Really?
stuff too. Yeah, I think that in a perfect world, this would have come, before. I've seen there's other, EVs where I've heard anecdotally where, you see something come out and then you see, a second model come out and like, oh, very similar. It's like, yeah, actually, because the secondary model was the lead in terms of design that influenced the one that actually, came first. And it's just a matter of timing and stuff. EV market is very weird right now. It's how good is it? If it's really great, it's going to be irrelevant that there aren't subsidies or whatever. You see that with other brands. You see that with Tesla. You see with everybody. They seem positioned to compete price-wise correctly. Like I said, I think they have a killer app in terms of design, something that like people are going to be like really enjoy looking at in their garage and their driving and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. I am well past trying to predict, but the EV market, as you've seen, especially this week, is chaotic at best.
It's definitely going to be the bellwether. It's got the looks, it's got the buzz, it's got the specifications, it's got the off-road styling. If this doesn't succeed to some level, I don't know. They're going to sell 200,000 a year, they're going to sell 50,000 a year. If it doesn't succeed at some level, I don't think there's hope for many other companies. Another one of those companies that's going to be competing in this compact SUV space later this year is Lucid. They've got a couple of new models, it turns out, coming along. They've got a mid-sized platform that everybody's expecting to be one vehicle, but they're going to be launching three called the Cosmos, the Earth, and another one they haven't announced the name yet. Each one of them is going to have different body styling, and they'll go from street performance to off-road adventure spec. First one's going to go on sale later this year. Eventually, they're hoping to price them for less than $50,000. They haven't announced the pricing for the launch model that's going on sale. But here's the interesting thing about these. Lucid is based in the US, has a factory in Arizona, but it also has a factory in Saudi Arabia, where it currently builds knockdown kits of its models. It sends the parts there, they assemble them there, and then they sell them in that market. But for this new midsize model, it's going to first enter production in Saudi Arabia and get shipped to the US. And then later they're going to add it to the Arizona plant. They'll also be selling it in other markets around the world. That's going to be really interesting to see how the market reacts to, I guess this is the first car imported from Saudi Arabia to the
Right.
US, although it is with a US brand. Of course, that gets a lot of investment from Saudi Arabia as well.
Listen, the reality is most people don't even know where the hell their car is built. You know, we are not representative of the average car buyer who is walking into any showroom. The average person doesn't know, doesn't care if they like the car, if it's priced right, they're good to jump on it. I guarantee you there were people that were driving Buick Envisions that had no idea the thing was built entirely in China and imported here. So let's see what the market, does. I mean, these EVs have to overcome other stuff now and compete on the quality of the product, which I mean, which is as it should be, frankly. So if they're good, they'll do well. Same thing with the Rivian, same thing with everybody that drops a new EV into the market. But you could also be like companies like Honda that take a look at things and are like, you know what, we are going to take a bath here now, and in the hopes that we can avoid a much bigger problem down the road.
Honda dropping 3 planned US built electric vehicles that were supposed to start going on sale this year. We're talking billions of dollars they just wrote off to kill this program and focus on gas and hybrid vehicles.
It's interesting that they made a point that it's interesting to see Honda make this call while, you know, Toyota and Subaru, continue to push forward with their, new EV lineups. Honda obviously read some tea leaves and said, this is a bad idea. And my point of view is it's not like Honda isn't going to find great use for the manufacturing capacity that would have been dedicated to these vehicles and probably be able to sell vehicles that have a more ready and willing customer.
Currently builds the Accord and the Integra at the same factory that they're setting up the electric vehicle production at. So expect to see more of those on the road. And now I'm going to be interested to see if Honda sticks out this Formula One thing because it's not starting off too well for them with Aston Martin. They've been having a lot of technical issues. But just as a quick recap to the Formula One season kickoff in Australia, we got to talk about Ford and Cadillac, how they did there as well. Interesting, both teams, Cadillac and the flagship Red Bull team, both had one DNF and one finish. In the case of Cadillac, the finish was Sergio Perez, who came in 16th, 3 laps down. I think he was the last car that was still running at the end. While Max Verstappen in the Red Bull Ford drove from 20th on the starting grid to finish 6th. So Ford looking a little bit better there. Plus the Racing Bulls using the Ford motors finished 8th and 13th in the race. Going into China this weekend, as we speak, they just wrapped up qualifying for the sprint race, and Cadillac came in dead last. One of the cars didn't even put down a time and had a battery issue. The other one had a fuel system issue and put down a pretty slow time. It's just interesting to see Cadillac struggling so much still when you've got Haas using the same Ferrari sourced engine, finishing 7th and 11th at Australia. Now, I know that's a team that's been around for 10 years, but still, it seems like this is less about the Cadillac chassis and more about the power unit. And I kind of feel like they have the engineering might to figure this out. I didn't expect them to be a front runner, but to see them this far back, even now, is a little bit surprising to me.
I didn't really have high expectations for Cadillac at all coming in. Brand new team put together fairly quickly, considering all the drama that surrounded the brand's entry into Formula One. They're not the only ones with problems in Formula One. There's a just particularly visible and bad because it's a high profile brand new OEM in Formula One. I mean, the Aston Martin problems are, a mess. We are probably, I would say we're about a month away from seeing what everybody actually has as they still, sort through figuring out how to best deploy this new formula. And it sounds like, this weekend they're going to cancel the 2 Middle Eastern races as well. So there's another gap that's going to get thrown into the schedule.
And F1's probably going to update the rules because these new power units aren't working out that
They
well the
have
way
to.
they've designed how
Everybody
they
hates
operate.
them. Everybody hates them. The fans don't like them. I know that it was juicy, to watch the opening laps of the race where there was like passing, like it was like you were watching IndyCar. All of a sudden, there's all this overtaking and passing, but in the end, it's not what I think anybody wants. So they've got problems to solve and figure out. Fortunately, the Formula One season is endless, and there is time for stuff to change. Listen, if nothing else, it's going to be very interesting, and there'll be all kinds of drama, and X and all the other social platforms are going to be full of people yelling and screaming about stuff, and be very entertaining. Are we going to still watch the races? Yeah, we're just going to go watch the races and see what happens, because when there are this many question marks, it means that from the mid-pack back, there's a bunch of interesting stuff that can still happen. Mercedes looks like it's got its act together and are the team to beat, as a lot of people predicted. Ferrari looked, fairly promising. Max is Max, but Hadjar looked good in qualifying, and that car caught fire. So I mean, there's so much of the season still to come. We'll see what happens. One would hope to see some growth, and I think that that's really all Cadillac can really hope for. Nobody expected Cadillac to go in there and contend. Let's see if they are able to have both cars fit by, mid-season toward, let's have both cars finishing the race, not laps down, and take things, step by step. The rest of the guys, the established players, apart from Aston Martin, seem like they're all going to be shuttling around in competition for the points positions. Aston Martin is in pretty bad shape too.
That one's kind of a big surprise for me. We got 2 certain races coming up, China and Japan, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, then will probably get canceled, as you mentioned. And then we're in Miami for the 1st of May. So hopefully the U.S. teams will have their act together by then. Listen, thanks again to Gary Patterson for joining us today. Good to talk to you, Alex. And folks, we'll talk to you next week on The Gas. The Gas is a production of A-Car Media and American Cars and Racing.com.